Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Talking Horses. Sarah Albadwi and Andy Serling as we get ready to talk about a 12-race card, so we'll keep the banter to a minimum to start the card. Of course, you can also be checking out I think the Champion Stakes is coming up. Do we know posters for that? Sometime after 11?
I believe that it's off air at 11:30, so it has to be before that.
All right. Anyway, head over to Ira Bets. Not a member, use the promo code CUP25. We'll match the $200 of your initial deposit. And we'll give you a $25 bet for the Breeders' Cup when we get to the Breeders' Cup. You can also check out Track Stats when you're there as well. Also, and I know people are excited about this, we have a cross-country pick 5. That'll involve the 3 to 5. That John Forsmore is a flat race that'll involve a heavy favorite in the Gray Wizard. You also got a jump race in there. In Perryville and Raven Run, et cetera, et cetera. Perryville lost a horse because Locked is running here in the first. What else do we have, Eddie? The show. We are on from 12 to 6 on FS2, and then we take a short break, and we're on from 7:30 to 11. Yeah, we got 12 hours of coverage today, but the good news is there's still, it started at 8? There's still about nine and a half hours left of that coverage, which right now is going on with the English Champion Stakes. Race number 1 includes the long-awaited return of Locke. The last time he was supposed to run, he was scratched from the Fountain of Youth. Is that right?
I think so.
Does that sound right? Yeah,
possible.
Here he is winning the Breeders' Futurity. Obviously, the good Locked is just way too good for these. The question is whether or not you want to take a shot against him off a layoff.
Right, exactly. And I thought he ran extremely well in this race because we did see the Wine Star get a really perfect trip in this Breeders' Futurity, hugging the rail the whole way while Locked had to make this big sweeping move to just get by. And I don't even think he really ran that badly, finishing 3rd in that Breeders' Cup Juvenile. It's just, where has he been? Is he coming back as an improved horse or the same horse? And he hasn't really been that type to flash a lot of early speed in his races either.
Yeah, I imagine he'll find a way to be a bit closer today. I was looking up a lot of numbers for Todd Pletcher. And if you look up his numbers of horses off 250-plus day layups in the dirt, you look at them at NYRA, they're bad. At NYRA, they're 10 for 65 with a 70-cent ROI and a 15% win percentage. As the favorite, he's 7 for 28 with an 88-cent ROI. But when you go to odds-on favorites, he has very good numbers overall when they're odds on, and I imagine he'll be odds on in here. So it does seem like, in general, when they're super short prices, they deliver off these layups for Todd. But like you, I'll just try to wire the field with Gunnet, who seems to be the only other horse you could probably take, because Costa Terra has a similar running style to Locke, probably with less speed. So if you're taking him, you're eschewing dynamics, and you're saying that Locke isn't going to show up. Now, all those things may happen, but I don't want to do that, and like you, I'll just take the speed. And I think most people looking to beat Locke will look at Gunnet.
He does seem like the most logical type to try to wire this field, because when he's been in those past couple of races of his, he's run into some pretty quick horses on the front end. I mean, Federal Judge has won with 100 buyers in his next 2 starts, one of those being the Grade 2 Phoenix after that. I don't really hold it against him that he was put away by a horse of that caliber on the front end. And he did get to the lead in that True North and ended up being beat by Baby Yoda, but that was a graded stakes race, so the speed is there if they want to be aggressive with him and just go to the front.
Does seem like the controlling speed. A lot of scratches in race number 2, and we'll start out with a replay of Smile Mon winning convincingly last time. And I think the question in race 2 is whether or not you believe that he's likely to repeat this performance.
Yeah, and I think we both take a similar view on that, because I think this field has a couple more interesting runners than the one that he was facing last time. And it was a big move up. He was dropping significantly in class, and now he has to go to the non-winners of 3 level rather than that non-winners of 2 that he did spend some quality time at. So I don't necessarily trust this performance to return against this field right back, especially at a short price.
Yeah, and we'll see if Cool Operator, a horse that could put some pressure on him in this race. Obviously, the race was really scratched now. And those are our picks for race 1, guys. Can we move on to race 2, please? There we go. Go ahead with Principe d'Oro.
I just feel as though he's coming out of a productive race, and I know Cool Operator is coming out of that race as well, but I thought he had things his own way on the front end and couldn't see things out on the 30th of August. So Principe d'Oro, he was out a little bit wider. We've seen Emirates Road winning next out with an 89 buyer. The 3rd place finisher of that race, Warrior Richard, he came back to win with a 90 buyer. And before that last race, I mean, he's just not exactly running against fields like this one. I think that he's been in some tougher spots, and this field just makes sense for him, and he's going to be the slightly better price.
I've lost a lot of money on him, so why not lose some more? I really didn't have anybody to take in this race. I guess Indian Quest, getting back to the dirt, can win. Principe de Oro was one I've just had a thing for, and I didn't really like anybody else. Smile Mon I would never take up. A dressed-up performance last time with Cool Operator likely to press him. I figured it would make it hard for him, so I sort of landed on Principe de Oro by default. Race number 3, the Awad. We'll start out with the maiden in here, the number 4 valuation metric, who really should have won his last race. The rail was the place to be. But then again, the horse who was third, who stayed on the rail, did come back and win his next start as well. And the horse who beat him was a horse who had run well in his first start, so I'm not going to hold it that much against him. I didn't really love anybody in here. I thought he was the worst to beat, but I didn't put him on top.
Yeah, I mean, I think that he makes a lot of sense, but do you really want the short price on the maiden, who really had, I thought, a very comfortable and great trip last time, and maybe he did get beat by a horse of some quality. I don't want to completely dismiss that as, oh, he had this soft trip and still couldn't get his head down at the wire, but I didn't really see him getting the same kind of setup that he got in that last race. He's going to have to try to switch some tactics, because I think there's other horses that might be quicker than him early, especially those stretching out.
Yeah, no, I don't have a strong opinion one way or the other. There's an enormous amount of handicappers in love with Surfside Moon. What did I miss?
I think maybe just trying to look for an alternative. I didn't know that this was a popular
Yeah.
opinion.
Oh, yeah, everybody
but
loves
good
him.
to know. I mean, his one turf race at Delaware, it's too slow on paper to have anything to do with this race, and it's possible that he was just looking impressive and professional against a bunch of nobodies behind him. But I did like that he stalked a little bit. Other horses were getting out badly to his outside on the turn. He stayed to task. It was that professional type of effort. And he's only had the one chance turf routing, and it was a success. And so I like that he's already shown that he can sit off the pace and be successful. He showed that he could switch inside and rally inside of another horse because he was lugging in a little bit. And this is a trainer who doesn't start a lot of horses in turf routes in IRA, but he is 4 for 23 with 6 to hit the board. The ROI is very positive based on a 38-1 winner, but all the others were under 10-1. So he brings some horses that are sort of that type of price range that I imagine this one will be.
Okay, you're not the only one that likes this horse. I completely missed it, but maybe you got something and I just didn't see it. Concord Green's coming back in a couple of weeks on short rest, as is, I believe, somebody else in here that ran the Pilgrim fully authorized. And he just didn't run at all in that race. Now, maybe it was the boggy course. Now, I didn't like this horse based on his first race where he had a dream trip, but he ran so badly last time. It should come back on short rest. I think it's fair that the course might not have been to his liking.
I mean, I think it's the question of, was his debut indicative more so of his ability and he just didn't appreciate that yielding course, or did he win on debut because he got this pace set up to close into?
Well, he's a better horse than
That
his
last
last
race,
race
for
suggests. The question is he going to run better? And I won't be surprised if he does. I liked his dashing in here. A horse who, I mean, I'm hopeful that this horse likes more distance. He seems like a horse that should like more distance. And I don't think it was a huge inside bias here, but I do think there was an advantage to being inside. And this horse was never near the inside at any point in the race. And he kind of closed relentlessly. Listen, his race didn't come particularly fast either. It's faster than Surfside Moon's, but it's not particularly quick. But I still thought he's a horse that could improve second time out, and while I don't think he was massively against the track, I don't think he was with the track.
Yeah,
and I thought they ran well.
He's running right by a horse that had had 2 prior starts as well in his first try, and I think it's key that this horse was bet so significantly to be the second choice for connections who don't really take that kind of money with their debut runners.
Aviator Gui is a weird horse that Chad Brown seems to want to get on the turf.
Very intent.
I think I'm guessing, and I've never talked to Chad about it, nor would I, but the dam's a half to gun runner. And Chad got another horse from Tree Chimneys, a filly, that is related to Gun Runner in a very similar way. And he tried that horse in the turf. She had a bit of a trip in her first start, and then she was in that race where she ran third, Dancing Dean was second in there. So I'm wondering if he's sort of thinking the same thing with this horse, that maybe there's some turf in there, because it feels like that horse ran a little bit. And I think Aviator Gui is the sort of wild card in this race, but probably going to be overbet because it has a fast figure on the dirt and it's Chad Brown. And I just don't feel like it's a great gamble to take this horse at 3-1 because you have no idea whether or not he's a turf horse.
Right, and I think that we see Chad Brown have exceptional stats in so many areas, and then for him with this move, 2-year-olds dirt to turf in general, he's 4 for 25, so it's not something he does all that often.
See what happens in race number 3. Race number 4, a maiden claiming race. I wanted to show the replay of the 1A, I'm sorry, the 12 in this race, running second last time, because this horse had no chance wide against a good rail last time out against much better. And this was, sort of typified the bad luck that Tony Dutrow had. He got disqualified, he's tough beats. This was an absolutely murderous bob that this horse lost. I feel like Paul LaDuca bet this horse, and I was on the set with him, and it was really a horrible beat.
I think he did, because I think I remember the exacerbations.
Yeah, well, so this is a much more logical spot for this horse in here, outposted, but still a horse that's capable of beating these horses.
I agree, and I think this horse had every right to not run as well as she did in that start two back, where she had to make that big wide remove around the turn. The pace was somewhat holding together, whereas she was coming from far back. And I think that last time, you just make a great point that she never had the opportunity to be on the part of the racetrack that you wanted to. So she has a built-in excuse facing that maiden special weight company again. She does draw farther to the outside. I think some horses that are dropping in class in here make some sense, but she's in the mix. I have her third.
Talk about your pick, the one.
Yeah, I mean, this was an obvious horse to go for, but she's just never had the opportunity to be in for a tag on the grass, and her turf races that are going a mile or further in for the maiden special weight, they're just faster than what a lot of the other horses in this race have run. It's first time in for a tag on turf, second off the claim for Linda Rice. She's moving back to the surface that she's run the best on, and those horses...
She's very logical in this race, I agree.
That she was against, they're
She's
okay.
Run fast races. As far as sale leaseback, past tense, I guess they kind of knew. Was past tense the horse that won that race yesterday? I got the right horse in there? Now I'm confused.
Maybe.
I feel like that horse won versus a Tom Morley horse won yesterday, and there was a general, they knew that horse was going to win. They absolutely knew. I don't know how that horse was favored, ended up winning a blanket photo. So probably a better race than it looks. This horse was out in the middle of the racetrack the entire way, 3 to 4 wide, every step around the racetrack, while the rail was an advantage that day. I don't think it was an extreme advantage we had seen in other races, but this horse never saved ground. I thought ran well, and I thought ran a better race than True Myth, who also drew sort of poorly at the outside. So while I've never been Sale Leaseback's biggest fan, I thought the last race was good, and I'm with you on the one, and took that one as well. I guess Under the Mistletoe is the sort of wise guy horse dropping down for Bill Mott. Do you know what Naira, maiden special weight to maiden claimers and turf routes at Naira, the Mott barn is just 1 for 15 over the last 5 years with a 27-cent ROI. And this one has to drop because can't be competitive against maiden specials. But I guess in here you have to take a look.
Yeah, and I think that there's some valid excuses. I mean, first time out as a 2-year-old running into hard to justify. Okay, you can forgive that race.
Didn't do any running at all, so what?
No, but then I guess in that last race, she is coming off that lengthy layoff at Kentucky Downs, and she just seemed to really resent being on hold early in that race, really throwing her head and taking a weird step around the turn.
A little far for her, too, a mile and 5/16
and then she
off a
just
long
lost
layoff.
so much position the whole way around the racetrack, so it just seemed like they saved her for another day after that weird step. But I don't know, she hasn't really done much running, but she's taking a drop.
Big scratch in race number 5 with Who Could Ask for Mo coming out of here, and we'll take a look at camera in the race that she was disqualified. Regardless of how you feel, she ran well in there. She was a horse that had been working very well going in this race, and I kind of wonder whether or not she's as reliable to keep that form going here.
I don't think she's very reliable in general, but I think that looking around, she projects to be forward, if not in front, towards the inside, and she just seems like she has a couple faster races as of late. I don't think that Who Could Ask for Mo was ever winning this race, but I understand that the path was taken, and so something needed to be looked at.
Okay.
You
Since we could
disagree?
debate, I think there's absolutely no way any of us can possibly know whether or not she was winning that race.
Okay.
Because she ran well enough that she could have won that race. But, that's a whole other debate. I mean, whether or not she was winning. It was a controversial DQ as well. Listen, she's obviously dangerous. What is Fade de Grey going to do, the other Todd Pletcher horse in this race?
Who is she really?
Well, she was against, as much as she was with the track 2 races back.
She was against
She
her
was
last time.
against the track last time. So is she a 77 buyer, 78 buyer horse? Can she stalk Camera and win this race? I don't know, but I've never loved Camera. And I know she got it done and she ran well last time. I'm not knocking her race last time. But I wonder if Fade de Grey, who I'm not a big fan, might just be the better of the two. I like the two Who Could Ask for Mo. I scratch into Cinderella's cause. I'm fine with that. I know she's a horse that had a habit of finishing second, but I'm not sure she didn't finish second in some of those races to horses that are sort of more accomplished than the Pletcher horses in this race, one of whom won a maiden race on a gold rail, and another whom has basically been a money burner her entire career until you finally bet her last time at 8-1 and you got skunked by getting DQ'd.
Right. I mean, look, she has been in good form lately. She's a consistent type, even though she doesn't win all that often. She absolutely demolished this field at a short price, but when you look at who she beat, it's like, oh, Racing Colors, April Antis. It's like, we know these horses, and they're consistent types of horses to hit the board, but they're not generally the ones that you would think of as fast enough to compete in a field like this.
Well, she's fast enough to beat these horses. I mean, her speed figures are easily fast enough to compete in this race.
Right, I'm saying I just think that if the horses in this race that look a little bit better on paper with less opportunities to lose show up, I don't know if she's quite there in terms of who she's been facing as of late. But I think it's still a fair question to ask, okay, are these two horses for Pletcher going to run the same races they did in their
I don't
last
think
start for
there's
Cameron
any
and Tubac?
guarantee either one of them are really that good. I think Toned Up's a little bit dangerous to get a piece in this race. I thought she was a little bit interesting, but we'll see what happens in race number 5. We'll break after race 6 of our 12-race extravaganza today. Race number 6. We'll start out with Treaty Obligation. And I thought the track was heavily tilted towards speed in this race, but I can understand why people like this horse.
Yeah, I mean, first time in for a tag, he wins, he gets an 82 buyer, he was supposed to win that race, he leaves one solid barn and goes to another who we know is sharp first off the claim. I just didn't really want to take him at a shorter price, but I completely understand the argument, and I kept coming back to him and thought, no, I don't want to put him on top because there's other horses that could win this race that I could make a solid case for, but he just looks very live.
Off the claim from Chad Brown and Dirt Routes, horses are 2 for 37 over the last 5 years with a 78-cent ROI, and there are plenty of short prices in there, 1 for 9 maiden horses that were claimed out of maiden wins. So the numbers don't suggest this horse is going to come back and run well. Why do you also like Have You Heard?
I just feel like he's been facing some solid company in those starts at Saratoga and not disgracing himself either, running third behind Yo Daddy and Unstable Prince with a wide trip. I feel like he was in a tough race where he was on the inside where you didn't necessarily want to be that way. On the start before that, I know that his last win was an off the turf race at Colonial, but he's been running reasonably well against some fields that I thought were similar to this, if not better. So I thought that he might have the opportunity to upset this field. I just didn't want to take the favorite.
Yeah, I felt like with Have You Heard, the race at Colonial, I wouldn't take at face value either, but he did run the same figure when he won a race here in his prior dirt race. He's a horse that was over-raced. He ran on July 13th. He ran on July 27th. He ran on August 17th. It's like they just couldn't shove him in the entry box enough. And yeah, he had no chance in the Game Warden race. He made a move like he was going to win last time, and obviously he wasn't beating Yo Daddy, but he completely fell apart. And I'm wondering if it was a horse that just really needed a bit of a break. And maybe by getting a bit of a break since that last race, he'll come back and run to his better numbers. And there are a lot of horses I didn't love here. Now, Unlimited Potential is really a difficult horse to know what to do here. We'll show that win at Saratoga, which Timeform US does not have as fast as Bayer. I have some question marks about it as well. And he came back, and that last race did fall apart. They were moving up front. I don't want to hold it against him, but I'm not going to be surprised when this horse is just better than these horses today.
Yeah, I mean, look, this is the kind of horse that if he's 9-2, 4-1, he's a little bit more interesting. But I just kind of wonder if he ends up getting bet a little bit based on the record that he had prior to dropping in for the tag, that big fig 2 starts ago, and then maybe just really seeing that note that he got bumped at the break and then the pace came apart last time. I don't really want to take him at what's going to be an under 5-1 type of price.
Boy, I think 9-2 is a very generous price. I mean, the question is, who do you think is better than him here? I mean, it's like, I know that everybody loves Storming Chrome every time I turn around. I guess he does have some races as well that could give him a chance here, but I mean, he was awful last time out.
I liked him last time, and he was terrible.
Awful in that race at Saratoga as well, and I can't make any real excuses for him. He's got back races that were good, and I guess he could get to them.
I felt like he had an excuse in the race, back getting out of the gate. He was really like nailed on the outside and then really pinball between horses.
But he was
further
terrible.
back. But he was awful last time, and I just can't take him after that because I had some interest, I had an excuse.
I know,
and
but
now
I
don't.
think that you, I mean, in fairness, I think that you thought his race 2 back was better than it was. I think his last 2 races stink. I don't think it's just last
Yeah,
time.
I mean, maybe
he got a
that's totally fair.
55 buyer. Yeah, he got a little shuffled early, but he looked like he wanted a place to lay down at the 8th pole. I mean, if you watch that race again, he looks like he needs a nap. I guess Waitlist claimed away from Safi Joseph, but another guy tough to claim from. But I did look up stats of horses claimed from Safi at Naira as well. And while they're lousy out of town, it's a small sample, they're 4 for 13 at Naira, the horses claimed away with a $2.18 ROI. So people have had success, and who's more likely to have success than Linda? The problem is it's Todd Pletcher, ex-Safi Joseph, but I guess he's not impossible here. We'll take a break. We'll go into the pick 6, which chalked out pretty much until the last race. I guess the second choice won the second to last race, and then one price, and you got $4,000 yesterday. But, you know, you missed it if you threw out a favorite because you don't use favorites in multi-race sequences. Speaking of multi-race sequences, we'll be back with some of them after a break.
For almost 150 years, the Saratoga name has been synonymous with the finest quality, sustainably sourced spring water available anywhere. Saratoga carries on the rich tradition of its forefathers by crafting each stunning blue glass bottle with the same attention to detail and care that has been its hallmark for generations. Visit SaratogaSpringwater.com today or ask for us by name at your local market or restaurant. Saratoga Spring Water. Make every day exquisite.
Welcome back to Talking Horses. Sarah and Andy, race number 7, kicking off that late pick 6, or pick 6. I saw the thing yesterday, late pick 6. It was in my brain. I saw a tweet saying my pick's in the late pick 6, and it got in my head.
Are you playing the early pick 6?
I don't know. I'm lucky to hit a pick 1 these days. Where are we going with Bigfoot sighting?
I just wanted a new face in here, and I really like the workout from this horse. I feel like he wasn't asked for too much in that OBS work where he sold for $50,000. It had that high knee action, very turfy type of stride, and really just like picking up on all of the attributes that I hear Acacia and Maggie describe with these horses that do seem to prefer the grass. I felt like he was exemplifying a lot of those. I thought that he was very professional in that work, even though he did work in blinkers and wasn't asked to do much. And there isn't a ton of pedigree, but there is if you go back a generation, and he does have some turf with his second dam, multiple Group 3 winner in France, a Grade 1 winner in the US as well.
That is horrible turf sire. Birdie's a terrible turf sire.
It's not worse than some in here. I mean, but
he's faster on the racetrack than I am.
He's 8% with his 2-year-old first-time starters in general. So
yeah, he's the winning the half that won to this horse was a Distorted Humor, who's a better turf influence than Bernardini. Well, we'll see.
Wasn't that on synthetic too?
Anyway.
Dirt round.
Interesting how there were 2 races on August 30th, the 2nd, the 8th, both on the inner. And the race we'll look at here with Deemer, who's obviously going to take a lot of money in this race, came up a much, much slower race. Now, this was a tough beat for Deemer, no doubt about it, though I thought overall he got a fairly good trip, all things considered. And I think Smooth Breeze, who beat him, who got a very good trip to beat him, is not a bad horse. But I got to tell you something, I have trouble getting away from how slow this race was. For a horse that's going to be a short price, I'm not enthralled with him.
And Real Savvy coming out of this race, marooned on the also eligible list, and I know that's the other race you're talking about.
He's coming out of the other division.
Right, but that was the race the same day that was faster, and I understand looking at that one and thinking that might have been the weaker division, but I just thought that he really never had a ton of position in comparison to Trinity River in that race. He was posted out wide. He never saw the rail in that race. He was off. I mean, he
should have won. But I still can't get by how slow the race was.
Yeah, okay.
Listen, I've got him 3rd. I'm not against him. I've got George Briggs on a guess, a homebred for Peter Brandt. Picked him 2nd here. And I'm just looking for new faces because, you know, you're taking a shot with a 1. Good luck. I took Sounds Like a Plan, who took some money first time out, ran against better horses last time, ran against Open Company, which seems like Horacio wanted to get a race into this horse, was entered on the turf against Open Company. Twirling Candy's a good turf influence. There are 3 turf winners from the dam. It's not great, but there's enough to suggest this horse could handle the turf, and I'm going to trust in Horacio here to have a horse that maybe can do a little running. And ran well enough in the dirt. Unfortunately, we'll take money a little bit based on the dirt race. And I just didn't really like anybody else in here.
Yeah, I couldn't really make a case for most of the other firsters. George Briggs' connection's going to be bet. There isn't much not to like, but there isn't a ton to really shout.
It's turf
that this
pedigree.
is.
There's just no real production.
Yeah.
Race number 8. This one seems like a mess, and I guess we'll agree again. So talk about the number 3, Cold as Hell.
I mean, scratches in this race, I think, definitely affected the flow of the race in terms of.
Really?
Yeah, really.
Who?
Well, DeFusky Island showed speed last time. Dangerous Ride has been forward in his last couple of races, and
But they weren't. I mean, Seas Get Degrees is really
going to be in
fast.
front. Poppy's Pride.
Isn't Poppy's Pride likely to go?
I think
Don't
that
you
you
think
went-
Backside Buzz is going to go a bit from the outside? I mean, these are all pretty quick
I
horses.
think that you went from potentially 5 horses that like to be forward to 3, which means there might be 2.
We'll agree to disagree.
Okay. Anyway, Hold as Hell, he stumbled at the break last time out forward, and I think he just got a little bit keen in that race. He was very hard used on the front end, and I think he was just really running a little bit quicker than he wanted to early on, because in his prior 2 races, he had been one that had been able to rate pretty successfully. He had finished second to that huge long shot in Disco Dino and then came back to win for the coach. And I just think that he was really up against it last time, where he didn't want to be as forward as he was in that race. And that race did also feature a goose as well.
I agree with your assessment, and I think he's very logical in here. We'll take a look at replay with Secret Rules and Seas Get Degrees, and I feel like Seas Get Degrees is going to take some pressure somewhere. And the thing about Cold as Hell is he doesn't need to be far off it if the pressure doesn't materialize, as it so often doesn't here. Listen, I mean, Secret Rules is in great form. He wasn't on the rail last time, which was the place to be. He was forward, which was to his advantage. But Secret Rules is in great form, and I don't think he should be just dismissed considering how good his form is.
No, I ended up with him second. I wanted to try to poke some holes in his last 2 races, but there aren't really many to find. I think that the pace was honest in that race 2 back, but the pace could be honest enough in here. And I think that he was never really towards the inside right on the rail in that last start either. You can see that he's out several paths in the stretch of that race, and I think that we're looking at a horse that's just been improving as of late.
He's in good form. Commerce Comet's a tough one to read. Obviously beat much cheaper last time out, but ran a very fast figure in doing it. And it's a race that came up quick, and I don't want to just dismiss him. I'm very interested to see Eddie Barker's barn has gotten very hot now. I've been friendly with Eddie for many years, and I've been watching him train for even longer. And one thing about Eddie, he's a guy who gets hot and he wins races in bunches like a lot of trainers. Then, like a lot of trainers, they go a little quiet after that. And I'm very interested to see if these horses can run back to these races that they ran, because this was a huge performance by him. Yeah, it was a lot cheaper, but I mean, he runs this fast. I think he's a factor in this race, and we already saw him pull off a big upset with a horse that on paper made no sense whatsoever in Reddington.
Yeah, I think this is just a much, much tougher
It
field
is.
than anybody that he was running into last time, and I got my money last time, and I'm good.
Race number 9. Let's see what happens in race number 9. We'll take a look at Pioneering Spirit, winning last year's Bernard Baruch, and I very simply feel as though he's had trips in races, he's caught slow paces he had no chance against, and he's just getting significant class relief that he needs, and I think he's the best horse in the race, and I don't think he's as good as he was last year, but I don't think the drop-off is significant as some of the results suggest, given the trips, the bias he was against last time, and the way the races played out. I think he's very logical here.
He is. I'm a little tired of him. I know that you have talked about some of the trips he's had where he has been against things more than it looks like in terms of the performances that he's brought to the table. He has been against the toughest company in this field of anybody else. He just has not done enough running for me to want to take at a short price, and I thought that he was going to be behind things a little bit more with a horse that I think there could be some horses that are more forward than him for sure in here that
Well, he's
are
not a
in
speed.
much better form.
Okay. Talk about Wonderful Justice.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is one of the horses that I think could be forward if he wanted to be. He hasn't been running quite as well as of late, really taking that big step forward from 2 to 3 that we like to see, as he did win twice as that 2-year-old. But now he's with Joe Sharp. He's adding blinkers in here.
Well, he was with Brad Cox. He's pretty good too, the Brad Cox guy. Okay, just want to make note.
It's not a knock,
Not
it's just
sure
true.
it's. I'm not sure it's a huge trader change going. Well, he's with Joe because Gordon Wyckoff bought this horse at auction before his last race, so he switched because Jordan doesn't use Brad Cox. That's why he's with Joe.
Okay. I trust him to be forward. I trust John Velasquez to go. I think he could be faster than Call Me Harry if he wanted to in this race, and I'm trying to wire the field with him.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see how aggressive they are with Call Me Harry. I imagine he's going to go in this race. We'll see how it plays out. I think Daunt is a little bit dangerous in this race. He's not a winning type. He never gets it done. He's very hard to put on top, but he does consistently run well enough to be competitive here. I see you agree putting him second. What about a horse that's won at this distance really good? Because you go back to this win 3 races back, and you could arguably say 2 miles the next time, 1.5 miles the next time with a ridiculously slow paced. Maybe he just belongs more in a race like this.
I think that's fair. I just sort of wonder how good that race was overall because I know everybody tried to bet Boys after that, and he just has not really risen to the occasion in the same fashion. I know that he ran well against English Conqueror a couple races ago, but I don't know. I just think it was sort of that blanket finish, and he was able to just get by, and I think this is a tougher field overall.
Yeah, I thought he got a good setup as well. I kind of prefer Mondego out of the race, though he's been incredibly disappointing. And this is a race of sort of one disappointment after another. Daunt's been disappointing. Mondego, Pioneering Spirit. We'll see what happens in race number 9 at 1 mile and 3/16. So also want to remind people the rails are down to 0 on the inner turf starting today. Race number 10, the Athenia. I'm going to show Spirit and Glory finishing 3rd. This was a race that basically fell apart the Eatontown 2 races back. And also, despite the slow pace, it fell apart, and she was a very oddly underbet at 7-2 in this race. It's like they kind of knew. And in my opinion, she is the controlling speed in this race. I know it's 1 mile and 1/8, but I think she's consistently run races as good, if not better than these horses. She had, I don't care about, shipping to Kentucky Downs for all those big purses ends up being a fool's errand way, way, way more often than people really think. So I don't care about that race. I just think you put her in the front and you hope for the best. And if she's 4-1, if she's a bigger price than Prerequisite, I think she's tremendous value.
That's fair. I mean, she just has the credentials coming into this race. She's actually quite a bit more versatile than she has been ridden as of late as well. So if they really want to go with Prerequisite, she has been able to come from off the pace in the past. She's been able to come from last if she's had to. I don't think that that's going to happen today. I think they're going to use the same forward tactics, but she's a tactical type.
Here's Child of the Moon. I'll let you talk about her. Here's her last race.
Yeah, I think she has to get a little bit better to be competitive in this spot, but we've seen this come back as a pretty productive race. And even the race prior to this one where she finished second to Root Cause, she was closing into a much slower pace and still able to finish second in there. So I feel as though we've seen several of these horses exit and improve or run their best races of all next time out. Do-Gooder, Lady Firefoot, Golden Rocket, Annihilate certainly outran her odds at 81-1 the other day. Collaboration ran well. I don't know that she gets the same amount of pace to close into here, but I did like in that race prior that she was still able to make that move into a slow one.
Yeah, I don't disagree with what you said. I just don't know if she's quite good enough. Right. And I think this Nats test, on the other hand, she's sort of the up-and-comer for a good barn in this race, and she won't be that short a price. And unlike Prerequisite, who was gifted the race when the actual speed was foolishly rated, and think about Prerequisite, who's the morning line favorite, she's very dressed up by stakes. What people don't realize is the kind of juicy trips she had in those races that make her look better than she is. Not that she can't win, because she can win the race. What about Three-Piece Priest, who I idiotically missed that tries with when I tried to get her for second last time out? I think she's a little interesting, but I also do wonder if maybe she wants more distance.
I thought the same thing. I think that she obviously faced some good company down at Kentucky Downs and still ran well in that race, but if she's really going to be 7-2 in here, I didn't want to go in her direction. I thought that this would have a different sort of race flow than the one that she was in last time out.
The horse that scares me is Papilio, who's faced a lot better horses, and I figure she forms a good complement to Spirit and Glory, the speed and a closer, and she's the closer ultimately that I want in this race. She's just kept better company in her races, and I want to give her a chance. So I'll put her second. I'm going to be mostly 2/7 in this race. See what happens in the Athenia. Oh man, suddenly my sinuses got completely full. important information. Race number 11. I wanted to replay, so let's look at First Glimpse and Winner's Ghost and Mason Mania, horses that ran 1, 2, 3. You can talk about them if there's any of them that you like at all.
Yeah, I mean, I think that Mason Mania is a little bit interesting now going back to Rob Atras in here, but these are horses that they've had turns facing each other. I thought that First Glimpse got a nice pace to close into in this race. I don't know if he gets the same sort of setup in this one today. You have Mason Mania leaving the Wayne Potts barn, but he's going back to a barn that he's run well in the past, so there is that at least. And he's run well for some different barns overall, so.
I thought it was a cheaper race than this. I just thought
Yeah.
there were more interesting horses that have run in different spots in here. You're not really going back to alternate reality.
That trifecta
you
didn't
have
pay
enough-
too badly last
Well,
time.
you didn't pick him third.
Are those the rules?
Well, it's
I
a
couldn't possibly bet a try if I
it's
pick
a-
him on top.
It's actually a conversation that's going to bore people to have it right now, but I think it's why putting super long shots on top is deceptive. And I think it was a race where a better case is made putting a horse like this second or third and saying, this horse is obviously not good enough to win, but could maybe fill out a try, or maybe you get a little second in exactas, and clearly was a try that could have been hit for sure if you used him. But what's going to happen in this race that didn't happen last time, where he won essentially a 5-horse photo for third, right, with a pretty good trip?
I don't think that he had a good trip in that race. I think that he sort of got up for third despite a wide route around the racetrack, and that he was sort of steadied in that race as well with an indecisive move. And you are dealing with the same rider again today, and I do think this is a tougher field.
When was his last win, that rider?
I don't know.
Okay.
Probably around when Alternate Reality's last win was.
Okay. So we're going to really go back to him. Okay. Good luck. I mean, he'll be a big price again. We'll see what happens.
He ran okay last time.
Did he? Let me ask you a question. If he was 7th, beaten 5 1/4 lengths, would you think he ran okay?
No.
Okay. Well, he was pretty close to being 7th, beaten 5 1/4 lengths, right? I hear you. I understand. He certainly outran his odds last time. I think he's in a pretty tough spot in here, but we'll see how he does. He will be a big price, and he may get some pace, and that pace could be predicated by my horse in here, Blake B. But I look at Blake B, and he ran last time at Parks for Michelle Giangulio off the claim for 10 strike. I don't know if people have noticed how many races 10 strike has won here with a very limited number of starters,
your
and
head
how
in the sand
well
if you don't.
Michelle has done for them. And that was just a better spot that she was in, a tougher spot, because even in finishing 5th in there, I don't know what wide trips mean in there, and it wasn't as wide as they're suggesting. It was 3 or 4 wide, which is like being on the rail at Parks. I just thought the horse ran well enough. This horse has good back races. Doesn't need to gun to the lead. Bar 14's going to go, I guess. I don't know if Bar 14 can even run a step anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, he was just horrendous last time out, and seems like he's done dropping. But Blake B can stalk, and I thought he was really interesting for those connections in here.
I think that he has definitely shown that he can take a step forward for the right barns, especially when he's forwardly placed. I just feel like he's never really been competitive against a field like this overall.
I don't know. I think he's run races fast enough to beat these. Thought Higher Quality was interesting. Second off a little bit of a layoff last time out in that weird race. There was a lot, the speed basically held together fairly well in there. I thought he was dangerous
had
as
some
well.
races.
We'll see what happens in race number 11. Race number 12 is a bring back race, though it does have an addition in here. And you've got in race 12 the number 4, Ms. Big Bucks. Is there more speed in this race with reflexivity in the race? That's, as opposed to last time. And I know you say, well, the horse rated last time, and that's fine. But I thought the horse's advantage last time was the potential to be the controlling speed. And I wonder if this is a bit mitigated by the fact that reflexivity has speed.
I think that's a completely fair question to ask. I think that she's better when she's aggressively used. I think that her fastest races have come when she's been able to get in front and be comfortable. I know that she did sit off a little bit last time and had enough. I just think she might be a better horse than Reflexivity, who we
She
did
is a better
see
horse than Reflexivity.
end
I
up
agree
in
with
some
you.
very good form as of late.
No,
but
I agree with you.
Reflexivity has not been facing this kind of company in a while and been competitive. Is she faster early? Maybe. But is she a better horse? I don't think so. So I thought with the draw where Miss Big Bucks would be towards her inside, Kendrick up, they're likely to be aggressive today with her. And at least she showed last time she can sit if she absolutely has to.
Oh, no, she can rate. I don't worry about her rating, but I thought that her advantage when we originally carded the race was the fact that there was really no other speed in here.
You've adopted my pet,
What's that?
Master of the Tune. She's hanging out in your backyard now.
Well, she's a horse that the chart caller missed trouble in the stretch last time out. He was probably busy looking for gooses or something. And this horse was in significant trouble throughout the stretch. And while she did save ground, and it raced in a time when you wanted to save ground, she came off in the stretch and got herself in trouble and probably should have been second in there. But on the other hand, Leslie's Humor, the 3, she had the wide trip and maybe ran the better race in a lot of ways. Leslie's Humor, though, is going to be a much shorter price than she is. So even though I think Leslie's Humor is a more likely winner, and I think kind of the worst to beat, in my opinion, and David has her the favorite, so he agrees as well, or the public will agree, I'd rather take a bigger price on Master of the Tunes. I'm a little bit interested in what Cold Hard Stare does, and I did find the replay of the Pinnacle Stakes at, I don't even want to try to pronounce the name of the place because I'll just get it wrong. I believe she's the horse that's in 4th right now in the sort of silvery blue silks. She closed a little bit, and I'm always scared of these horses that chip over. I mean, she's got a pretty good record running in turf sprints over there, and she seems like one that could be a runner. There's no killers in this race.
No, I mean, these are the horses that we've become very familiar with, some of them in better form right now than others, but we know who these horses are for the most part. And at least she is that unknown coming in who has some consistency overseas as well. And she's run well in her turf sprints, so I don't see anything necessarily wrong with her. I just went in a different direction and didn't really want to use her because I thought that she might take a little money.
All right. Thanks, Sarah. We got through the 12-race marathon. Somehow, you are going to be on the air in a few minutes. You're on from 12 to 2:30. I'm on from 2:30 to 6 afterwards. All of that action, just big part of our big day down at Far Hills as well. Acacia and the MiG and Joe Clancy are there. Head over to Naira Bets to play all the action. All these places. Use the promo code CUP25 and we'll match $200 initial deposit and give you a $25 free bet for the Breeders' Cup. Check out Track Stats when you're over there as well. We also have a cross-country pick 5, 2 races at Far Hills, the Athenia here, and the Perryville and Raven Run at Lexa Keeneland as well. Keeneland's in its penultimate Saturday. I believe they close next Saturday. And what else do we have, guys? There we go. We're on from 12 to 6, as we said. Sarah will be on early with Greg, who's up there doing the English Champions right now, and I'll be on later with Lafitte with the crew out of town as well, and also a night show. I know you all love a little Meadowlands action at night. Wait a second. British?
It's Breeders' Crown. I think we're just mixing up our content.
I
know it's a long day today, but
Breeders, not British Crown, guys.
Close.
Eliminations, and we have the that's the Meadowlands, and I think it's on from 7:30 to 11, not 7 to 11, right?
The case.
So
I'll be here very late.
It was relatively close.
Almost.
Anyway, we're done. Thanks again, Sarah. And Chris Griffin's getting warmed up. He has a big day ahead of him as well. Have a great one.
For almost 150 years, the Saratoga name has been synonymous with the finest quality, sustainably sourced spring water available anywhere. Saratoga carries on the rich tradition of its forefathers by crafting each stunning blue glass bottle with the same attention to detail and care that has been its hallmark for generations. Visit SaratogaSpringwater.com today or ask for us by name at your local market or restaurant. Saratoga Spring Water. Make every day exquisite.